Most interesting anime series out there with an MC that is actually quite evil. This makes for an interesting watch because you're kind of rooting for the bad guy. Maybe their journey is doomed from the very beginning. Either way, great to see you back here at Animeology. Today we've got some great anime recommendations for you, insanely overpowered characters that are actually evil. Number 10. XL Saga. Definitely on the more light-hearted side of things, XL Saga points a lot of fun at the science fiction anime genre, and it's not afraid to get really wacky and very strange with its interesting sense of humour. Sometimes laughing, sometimes confused, every episode in XL Saga had us coming back for more. With an interesting world and a brilliant core storyline, this is an anime series you have to check out. Telling the story of a world that is believed to be corrupt, we follow a secret organization that plans to conquer the world, starting off with the domination of a single city. But even that turns out too great a feat for our idiotic but lovable characters. The average episode has our team setting out on an epic mission in order to capture the city, but ending up in a huge failure with some insane levels of damage. Absolutely hilarious and exceptionally engaging, we were hooked from the very first episode. Number 9. School Days. A pretty big title across the anime scene, School Days started off as a highly successful visual novel and has since seen a lot of success as a manga and anime series. On the surface, as a basic romance and slice-of-life series with an engaging harem behind it, it soon becomes apparent that there is some insane twist that push School Days to the next level. The visual novel is fantastic, considering the branching storylines and many alternative endings, but the anime definitely went for one of the more controversial and well-constructed endings. In fact, the original anime series finale was delayed due to how controversial and graphic it actually was. The series closely follows the life of Makoto Itu, a high schooler living with his divorced mother. The story kicks off with our MC's infatuation with a schoolmate he travels to school with, but slowly begins to add more and more women to his harem. Unfortunately, our MC doesn't exactly handle himself well and doesn't really treat all the beautiful girls that well either, leading to a surprisingly dark and inherently evil main character. Number 8. Akadoma Drive. A brilliant anime action-adventure series with a fun sense of science fiction, Akadoma Drive is brilliantly fleshed out and designed. Set in a strange and depressing future, we follow a young woman that soon becomes known as a criminal known as Akudama. Chased by the government and hunted at every turn, our hero adopts a fake identity and soon finds herself becoming a highly skilled criminal that she's trying so hard to avoid being. Next thing you know, our MC is dragged into this epic job of saving a death row prisoner before their execution in an effort to earn a huge payday. A twisting story that slowly unravels and plays out like a crime thriller more than anything else. An interesting series with a strong core storyline and some engaging characters, Akadoma Drive is a series quite unlike any other. Number 7. Moriarty The Patriot. A brilliant anime series with a strong focus on crime and mystery, those familiar with the name Moriarty should think back to the world-famous Sherlock Holmes series. But this is not an anime about the iconic detective solving crimes, but rather a prequel series that focuses on Sherlock Holmes' arch-nemesis and major villain William James Moriarty. Set in the late 19th century with the British Empire at its height of global dominance, a major wealth divide between the rich and the poor, and badly behaved nobles ruling over all. We follow the Moriarty family as they adopt 2 orphans. With a strong hatred of nobility, the orphans plan to murder a cruel blood-related brother and burn down the family estate, in order to start a new life together and use illegal methods in order to destroy the crime system that is the major cause behind Britain's problems. After a while, we actually meet a young Sherlock, and the game of cat and mouse really begins, with some brilliant turns and plot devices with 2 masterminds on opposite ends of good and bad. This is an anime series that had us on the edge of our seats. Number 6. Hell Girl. A brilliant supernatural thriller tone placed against the backdrop of a brilliantly designed dark fantasy setting. Hell Girl is an interesting anime that heavily explores the themes of vengeance, revenge, and hatred. The core idea behind the series is the existence of this odd supernatural system that allows people to take their revenge on others by sending them to hell. The series itself opts for an episodic framework, with every single episode explaining a short little story, starting off with someone experiencing a great deal of suffering and then applying to get that person sent to hell. Hell Girl herself, Enma, appears and sends the antagonist to hell. The later episodes do begin to develop the overarching story, with some interesting new concepts introduced, with later seasons having their own unique story entirely. A fantastic series with an interesting MC that comes straight from hell. You don't get much more evil than that. Number 5. Talentless Nana. It might not look like it at first glance, but Talentless Nana is a heavy-set psychological thriller that loves to play around with high-tension situations that held us in suspense over multiple episodes. With a long-running and currently ongoing manga series to draw inspiration from, the Talentless Nana anime series is still reasonably new, sending ripples across the anime world since its release. We're definitely expecting a follow-up soon. Set in the near future, with the appearance of these mystery monsters that serve as a direct threat and are seen as an enemy of humanity. Our only defense are these children with supernatural powers that are sent to this isolated school to hone and perfect their abilities and powers. We follow Nana Higari, a new student at this school. She may seem friendly and cheerful, soon making lots of friends in her class, but she is actually a government assassin that has been sent to the school in order to murder all the students. Number 4. Elfin Lied. A personal favourite of ours, and legitimately one of the most underrated anime series ever made, there really isn't anything quite like this brilliant dark fantasy anime series with a strong dose of science fiction. We learn of these strange mutant species that look a lot like humans, except for these horns on their heads. Captured and studied by humans, this weird species are actually insanely powerful due to this invisible telekinetically controlled arm that flies about them wildly. Elfin Lied is seriously violent and dark. These invisible arms literally slice through people left and right with no remorse. The story itself follows a teenage mutant girl called Lucy, severely abused and studied by humans. Once she escapes, she goes on a seriously brutal and violent murdering spree. Looking to take out revenge on all of humanity, the core series itself focuses heavily on themes of social alienation, identity, revenge, abuse, and regret. When was the last time you saw an anime with girls and cat ears get this intense? Number 3. Gankutsu. Based on the awesome and world-famous tale of the Count of Monte Cristo, Gankutsu tells an interesting retelling of the classic story with some interesting science fiction and anime updates. A fun and interesting watch that is really pushed through with its strong characterization and strong plot points that make it clear to see why the Count of Monte Cristo is considered a literary classic. Set in the distant future, the year 5053, the series focuses heavily on the Count itself, a sailor that was betrayed by his friends and imprisoned on false charges, until he is one day helped by a mysterious force and escapes. Looking for vengeance on those that betrayed him, with a strong inspiration from the original work, it should be noted that Gankutsu does make some very heavy and well-respected changes that make it a great watch and one of the best anime series with an evil MC out there. Number 2. Jormungandt. An insanely riveting action thriller, Jormungandt tells us of the world of illegal smuggling, following a young arms dealer by the name of Koko Hikamata, an arms dealer that sells illegal weapons around the world. We follow our hero as she skirts around local and international authorities. Travelling with a team of soldiers and bodyguards, this is a brilliant watch that is stylish through and through. With the introduction of some interesting characters into the mix, Jormungandt really takes an already interesting backdrop and elevates it to the next level. Constantly scratching our heads and unsure of what to do next, you can't help but root for the international arms dealer. She may be evil, but there is something about her journey that had us rooting for her. And number 1, Angels of Death. Starting off as an adventure horror game, Angels of Death saw an insane level of success and is often cited as one of the greatest psychological horror tales out of Japan. Since then, the premise has spread from the games industry and has seen an impressive following in the manga world, and finally the release of a brilliant anime series that you need to check out. We learn of a 13-year-old girl that is taken to hospital after the murder of her parents. Things shake up as we find Rachel waking up on the floor of a basement with no real memories whatsoever. We slowly learn of a game in which multiple participants are trapped and forced to play. An insanely vicious and grim series with a strong focus on death and killing and violence. There really isn't any other anime quite like this. Getting into both heavily physical and mental torture, our MC is definitely evil, but be warned, Angels of Death is not an anime for the weak of heart.